Hello and welcome. Very good evening. Thanks for joining us here on the Sunday edition of the Urban Debate. I am Afrida Rahman Ali. Well, we are looking at the developments happening in Bihar very closely since morning, and there have been some significant decisions taken with regard to government formation. So, Nitish Kumar, chosen to be the leader of the NDA, he will be sworn in as the Chief Minister of Bihar for the fourth term in a row. But what has made news is the choice of names for the Deputy CM. That has not been officially announced yet. There is a lot of suspense over the matter, and this is the issue that has now taken center stage. However, viewers must know that unlike the post of the Chief Minister or Cabinet Minister, the post of a Deputy CM is actually not a constitutional post. It is equivalent to the rank of a Cabinet Minister, and it enjoys the pays and perks of a Cabinet Minister. More often than not, political parties use this post to appease allies, and therefore in some cases like in Andhra there are multiple deputy CMs. There are 5 in fact in the state of Andhra at the moment. So this is something that has become more of a coalition compulsion of sorts. Sources tell us that there is likely to be 2 deputy CMs. NDA is tight-lipped in terms of making a formal announcement. There are 2 names that are doing the rounds, Renu Devi and Tarkishore Prasad. In fact, Sushil Modi, the incumbent deputy CM, has already announced Tarkishore Prasad as the BJP legislature party chief and Renu Devi as his deputy. So with that logic, it is now being widely speculated that these 2 names will then be stamped as the deputy chief ministers of Bihar. So we are going to now address few important questions with the guests joining me this evening. Ashutosh, senior journalist, and Ajay Jha, political analyst. Ajay Jha will just join us shortly. Very good evening, Ashutosh. Thank you for joining us here on Mirror Now. And of course, some very important questions that we need to address with you. We've noticed that there seems to be now, a reshuffle in the BJP leadership in the state of Bihar after the assembly results. Sushil Modi's position becoming untenable and the names of Tarkishore Prasad and Renu Devi coming in. How do you look at this development? How is it significant, you think? Because under the leadership of Sushil Modi, BJP has done well, yet it seems he is on his way out.
Sushil Modi has been a friend and a colleague of Mr. Nitish Kumar for the last 15 years, barring 1.5 years in between. So Sushil Modi and Nitish Kumar had been great friends, had been great comrades. So if he's not there, that means 2 things. One, the BJP is looking for a post-Nitish era where can they find a new leadership within the BJP itself. Secondly, this also shows that the BJP doesn't want Nitish Kumar to have a free run, because this time it is the BJP which is the bigger party, got 74 seats, whereas JDU just got 43 seats, so 31 seats less than what BJP is. In that case, BJP has admitted that Nitish Kumar should be the chief minister, but there will be many fetters, there will be many restrictions, and the BJP would like to enjoy the bigger number of seats in terms of the power which should be with him in that sense. So 2 deputy chief ministers, as of the sources are telling, will be there. But this will make Nitish Kumar's life less autonomous in that sense, because as the chief minister the last 15 years with the BJP, Nitish Kumar had a total autonomy, had total say in almost everything, and that's what the BJP has been talking about. BJP has been saying that Sushil Modi has not been very assertive, so they want new leadership in that sense.
Okay, so therefore you are saying that yes, there is a clear intent to bring in fresh energy, to reshuffle the leadership. And like you said, Ashutoshji, I want to put that question to Ajay Jha as well, that BJP has clearly emerged as the bigger partner. It has managed to reduce the JDU in numbers. Now, by that logic, of course, like Ashutosh also said, it will have the bigger lion's share in the power sharing formula. Do you agree with that? And do you think that it is still important for the BJP to maintain this ally? Going by the Maharashtra experience, it is not unusual for things to turn around. Will this be a stable alliance going forward, Mr. Jha?
That's very difficult to say right at this moment, because the government itself is on a very sticky wicket at this moment because the margin of majority mark is much less than what was expected from them. But anyway, they are in the majority, so they are forming the government. But the question which you were raising with regard to Modi ji, Sushil Modi, is
Yes.
really, it has to be examined, it has to be assessed. I do partly agree with Ashutosh ji. And along with that, I would like to give a little more some other sides of the entire picture, because Sushil Modi is now a very, very known face to Bihar politics, and even in national politics, he has been there in case of GST and other things. But in Bihar politics, he is a very known face, and he had been one man who brought the BJP out after Lalu Prasad's Raj King rules. But the thing which were being expected from Sushil Modi is that the assertion of its own leadership at Bihar level was somehow missing somewhere. And there were some resentment among the people, and more than that, among the MLAs who have been elected now, and even those who were elected earlier. So some expectations were there. People thought that it is Nitish Kumar's government,
Yes.
it is not BJP's government. That particular element was missing, grossly missing. And it is where Sushil Modi was not really up to the mark, which was being seen. So maybe that may be one reason. And another thing is that now, since BJP is expanding its base among all the sections at Bihar level, so they have to now just include some other people also. Some new faces have to be brought up. And Sushil Modi is senior enough to be accommodated anywhere at the central level. Or even in Bihar, but I think he will not be here in Bihar.
Yes.
If at all he is being removed from here, he will be given a position in central level, maybe anywhere, either in the cabinet or somewhere else. But that's
Okay,
far
so he
distant.
will be accommodated at the center, you feel?
Yeah, I do think so.
Yes. Ashutosh ji, the Congress leader Tariq Anwar has said today, and there's an interesting comment he has made, that yes, Nitish Kumar has been a good NDA leader, but the fact is that the BJP has conspired to weaken him. And he also says that if he is elected, which he has now, someone else will remote control him. So do you think that Nitish Kumar, this time around as the CM, will be a titular head? He will not have the same powers, or he will be toothless, remote controlled by the BJP in that sense?
No, I do not agree with that thesis of Tariq Anwar. First of all, Nitish Kumar is a very senior leader. Secondly, he's a very, very, very smart leader. He's one of the smartest leader, because so I don't think he would like to be dictated by BJP. And the two things which is very, very important. First of all, Nitish Kumar has always have a choice, have alternative. If BJP tries to play with him very hard, and BJP tries to play some trick with him, he can always switch sides and can go to Tejasvi. So that is a bargaining tool which Nitish Kumar has very strongly conveyed. And that's one of the reasons that the BJP has agreed that the Maharashtra example should not be repeated here. Because in Maharashtra, Shiv Sena,
Yes.
it is decided to part with BJP because BJP was not negotiating what the Shiv Sena wanted, and then the Shiv Sena ended up forming government with the NCP and the Congress party. Today, the three big political parties in Bihar, that is Janata Dal United, RJD,
Yes.
and the BJP, and the two formations which are together, they always form the government. Like in 2015, the RJD and the JDU, they formed the government together, and then JDU switched side, came with the BJP, and they formed the government again. So today, yes, Janata Dal United in terms of seats is the biggest party in Bihar, but they have the bargaining chip with him. Unless the BJP decides to go for a midterm poll, in that situation when they can say they had been betrayed by Nitish Kumar, and this is the time to go alone. And that's one option which BJP would like to exercise. But I don't think before 2023 or 24, that before the parliamentary elections.
Okay, that's an interesting observation, Ajay. If you want to also come in on that point about whether Nitish Kumar will still have a lot of bargaining power. Tejasvi is not untouchable for him. The two parties were together beginning of his term in 2015. I also want to bring to your notice what RJD is saying at the moment, because what they feel is that the people's mandate is against Nitish. So he does not have the moral authority with just 43 seats to be the Chief Minister of Bihar.
Yeah, I do agree again partly with Ashutosh ji, not partly. There are some other sides also. All those things, whatever he has said, I do agree with that. But at the same time, I must say that it is very difficult for BJP more than Nitish Kumar to leave Nitish Kumar. So Nitish Kumar cannot be in position to leave Nitish Kumar only because there is some fundamental difference from Maharashtra in Bihar. Because in Bihar, there is a basic difference that
Okay.
Nitish Kumar represents a particular caste group from a support base. Whereas in Maharashtra, it is not that. Both parties belong to the same kind of narrative, political narrative, and all that. Here, the basic difference is that BJP cannot move without Nitish Kumar. Nitish Kumar represents those backward caste chunk votes. In fact, not all of them, but at least facially, you can say that he has that kind of support base. And that was one reason why RJD had also opted for him in 2015. And this was one reason why BJP was not in position to leave Nitish
Right.
Kumar. Because had Nitish Kumar been left aside, there was a likelihood of caste polarization in Bihar, and that would have impacted the entire national politics, particularly North India politics. So there was no choice for BJP, and even now, I think Nitish Kumar can dictate terms any time, any day, because he knows it well that BJP cannot leave him in any situation. So I do agree that it will be he who will be running the show even now.
Right, Ashutosh ji, in terms of the power sharing deal, how will it work out? Because so far it seems that there is great understanding between the two. Even if you look at the announcements today or the indications that are being given with Renu Devi being brought in, message being sent to the women voters constituency, which is supposed to be supporting Nitish Kumar. So it seems that there is, like Mr. Ajay Jha said, that a feeling of bonhomie between the two, the interest to accommodate each other. Is there amicable understanding, you think, or is it too soon to say?
No. I don't think there is a bonhomie between the BJP and the JDU. There is absolutely no bonhomie, and it's basically the politics of compulsion. Politics of compulsion for the simple reason because how can Nitish Kumar forget that the Chirag Paswan almost sabotaged the entire election campaign? And if JDU today is reduced to 43 seats, it's also because of the Chirag Paswan. And Chirag Paswan, there is a rumors around and there is a whisper in the corridor that Chirag Paswan has been sponsored, supported by the BJP. Otherwise, BJP would have stopped Chirag Paswan from going so much aggressively against the Nitish Kumar. Because you remember, Chirag Paswan has been saying that if he comes to the power, he'll send Nitish Kumar to jail and all kinds of things were said. And the Nitish Kumar, despite being very, very angry and annoyed, and conveyed his annoyance to the BJP leadership. But BJP leadership did not make any effort to rein Chirag Paswan. So I do not agree with this point that there is a great bonhomie between them. It is basically the politics of compulsion. Today, Nitish Kumar is much weakened. That's what
But do you
BJP
agree that
wanted,
they complement each other in terms of the fact that there is no conflict like in Maharashtra? I'm sorry to interrupt you, where there two parties, the BJP and the Shiv Sena, were vying for the same core constituency. In Bihar, it's not that. Nitish's core vote bank is different from the BJP core vote bank, and therefore they complement each other. They need each other. Do you at least agree with that?
Every state has a different kind of politics. There is a different fiber around that politics. So you can't compare Bihar with Maharashtra. What I'm saying here is that see what works for the BJP. BJP knows that as long as there are three big political parties in Bihar, BJP will always find it to form its own government. And And the Bihar is the only North Indian state other than Punjab where BJP had not been able to form its government. You look at Uttar Pradesh. In Uttar Pradesh, the BJP had government in 1991 when the Kalyan Singh was the chief minister. And then again, today Yogi is the chief minister with more than 300 seats. You go to Haryana, you go to Rajasthan, you go to Madhya Pradesh, you go to Chhattisgarh, you go to Gujarat, everywhere. The BJP had formed the government on its own. So Bihar is the only place in North India where it had not formed government on its own. So how long the BJP will support Nitish Kumar to form the government? How long the BJP will spend its charisma, its social base, its resources to make Nitish Kumar the chief minister? So BJP one day, I think this election has been very, very decisive in that sense. BJP decided that Nitish Kumar, if is reduced to a much lesser player, then the BJP can expand, and the BJP has expanded in this election. So my submission is that today the Nitish Kumar and the BJP might try to have a great chemistry between them, but this is full of inherent contradictions. And the contradiction is, first of all, the BJP and the JDU do not have the majority on their own. They are supported by the two small political parties called Hum and the VIP. Without them, the majority will be reduced to the minority. And then the big political party, that is BJP, is supporting them from and the Nitish Kumar is the chief minister. So this is a recipe for disaster. It might not happen immediately, but this will lead to certain political developments, not very soon, but at least in 2-3 years' time.
Okay. Those are strong words. Ajay Jha, would you react to that? Ashutosh ji says this is recipe for disaster. There is simmering tension. This chemistry is just cosmetic, just the facade, so to speak. I also want to ask you that, clearly the BJP is moving with an agenda. It has not let any complacency come in. Right from the beginning, it moved with a single-minded determination that here is a state that they need to get. Despite their tallest leaders being indisposed, Amit Shah being out of action, they managed to get 74 seats. And even after getting the verdict, there is no complacency. They're moving very strongly and with a plan in place on who should be the new faces of the BJP. Now, again, the point here is that it's not lost on anyone that there is a game plan. And if we are to believe Ashutosh ji, LJP was unleashed by the BJP to reduce the JDU, and JDU is not blind to it. Do you agree that there are inherent contradictions there?
There are so many things on which you can agree or you can disagree, but then there are some side interpretations also together. This is true, but the question is that Nitish Kumar cannot even afford to move away from BJP because he knows it pretty well that he cannot be accommodated as chief minister in Mahagathbandhan. So in any case, Mahagathbandhan is not going to surrender chief ministership to Nitish Kumar, even if he chooses to leave BJP. So even he has got his compulsions. He has to stay with BJP by any chance. So he's not going to leave. That is number one. Number two, BJP definitely is. We cannot compare BJP and JDU on the same footing. Yes, ma'am. Because Nitish's party is a regional party and BJP is a national party. Now you see it is expanding its feet even down south, even Tamil Nadu and elsewhere. So BJP would certainly always like to form its own government, but given the situation here and Nitish Kumar, even if maybe that they may not have one, but even if two enemies or two, you can say, not unfriendly people stay together for a pretty long time, they at least continue to stay in a much better way. So whether Nitish Kumar or BJP loves each other.
So basically you're saying there are coalition compulsions and both sides will try and maintain and, of course, try and stay afloat as long as it works. Last word to you, Mr. Ashutosh, it's being said now that the NDA has become redundant because the BJP is now the dominant force. There are practically no allies, and whoever is there in the name of an ally has been reduced to size. So do you think that with this now, that particular image of the NDA has become more reinforced, that NDA is actually now only synonymous with BJP?
See, I would like to call it that it's a marriage where the husband and wife both know that they have to divorce soon. When the divorce is taken, it's a $1 million question, but they have to divorce. There's no doubt about it. Without divorcing each other, the BJP cannot spread in Bihar, and BJP is desperate to spread its wings in Bihar, because when the politics in Bihar becomes bipolar politics, in that case, BJP will be gainer, and BJP always like to have a bipolar politics. But in North India, like in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Haryana, wherever there is a bipolar politics, BJP is gainer, and BJP has been able to form the government. That's what I'm saying. Nitish Kumar, the BJP has to maneuver in such a way the entire relationship that it is to their advantage, even if it leads to the divorce, and which I am sure will lead to divorce when only the time can tell.
Okay. Okay, you believe that it's a matter of time. We leave it at that. Unfortunately, we've run out of time here. Ashutosh ji and Ajay Shah, thanks very much for joining us. Thank you for your time. Clearly, this is a paradigm shift in Bihar politics. We all agree with that. This has now heralded a new era in Bihar politics, with BJP emerging as a far bigger player than it used to be earlier. We'll have to wait and see how things pan out as the government formation process has now kicked in. Thanks for watching the Sunday edition of Urban Debate.